ವಾಲ್ಯೂಮ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ ನೋಡ, ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾ? ಹೌದಾ? ಚೆಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಲ್ಲ. Okay, good evening all. I think this is the only last topic left out, right? Okay, so just put the heading, because this kind of question again, you can broadly link it to fundamental rights itself. Maybe we can, okay, what we can also do is, we can combine this with your, when we do Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita, all those things at the end, because that's a very three important bills that anyhow we have to do. So maybe what we can do is, we will combine that with that. This topic we will combine with your Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita, so that is much better. Or else, so because Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita in detail now I will not be doing, because we will do it under bills. Okay, fine. So please just put the heading. Sedition, section 124A IPC. Section 124A IPC. Fine. So once we discuss detail about it, more or less the same points will be there. First, let's write about sedition. So can you recall anything about sedition? What is a overdone? Okay, write the basic points. Section 124A IPC. First point is, first broadly try to define that word. Any kind of expression means what? It can be written, it can be spoken, graphical, anything, any kind of expression which tries to create, disaffection. So disaffection is the keyword. Any kind of expression which tries to create disaffection against legitimately elected government. Disaffection against the legitimately elected government is considered as sedition. Disaffection is the keyword. Against legitimately elected government will be considered as sedition. Right, that is basic idea. Then what is the punishment? The punishment is, or whatever, imprisonment is whatever, punishment is up to 3 years of imprisonment. So this is the section 124A. Section 150 of Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita changes a bit. That we'll do it later. First, let's write broadly about this. Fine. So punishment is up to 3 years of imprisonment, or directly, what is it? If you live that, directly, which is what? Life imprisonment. So nothing in between. Nothing like 4 years, 5 years, nothing. Up to 3 years. If anything beyond that, it is life imprisonment or life imprisonment. Clear? So that was the original provision related to sedition. Fine. So then below that, Kedarnath Singh case, the landmark case related. Whenever you write sedition, you cannot end the answer without referring to Kedarnath Singh case. Kedarnath Singh was the state of Bihar, Kedarnath Singh case. So what did Supreme Court say? Supreme Court said that the term disaffection is very vague. The term disaffection is very vague, and as I keep telling always, whenever it is vague, that means automatically what happens? Misinterpretation is high. The term disaffection is vague, hence misinterpretation is high. It violates 19 clause 1 subclause A. Misinterpretation is high. It violates 19 clause 1 subclause A. Hence what he did? Hence the scope of sedition was narrowed down. So narrowed down is the keyword. Hence the scope of sedition was narrowed down. So underline that, narrowed down means anything disaffection we don't take it now. Scope of sedition is narrowed down to only include, the scope of sedition is narrowed down to only include those expressions which, narrowed down to include only those expressions which deliberately disturbs public order, or incites violence. So those are the two keywords. Deliberately disturbs public order or incites violence. Clear? So disturbing public order, inciting violence is only sedition as of now. Clear? Then below that, Supreme Court in Supreme Court in the same case upheld legal validity of 124A. They did not declare it as unconstitutional, they only narrowed down the scope. Supreme Court in this case upheld legal validity of sedition 124A. So they told let it continue, but narrow down the scope. Upheld the legal validity of 124A. Fine, but then again recently what they did? Remember the case name? Recently in Ombatkere case, Supreme Court in, this is 2 years back, Ombatkere case said that no new sedition cases should be registered. Ombatkere case said that no new sedition cases should be registered. No new sedition cases should be registered, and old cases should not be prosecuted. Old cases should not be prosecuted. Fine, then just other cases related to sedition. Just to keep this in mind. Other cases related to sedition. Then we'll go to the arguments and all those things. Other cases related to sedition. Kanhaiya Kumar case, the JNU sedition case, if you can recall. Kanhaiya Kumar case. Romesh Thapar case, the freedom of press case. Romesh Thapar case. Then Binayak Sen case, the Naxal case. Binayak Sen, the doctor who against whom alleged Maoist links, they put a sedition case. Binayak Sen case. This is, keep it in mind. But the landmark case is, first is obviously Kedarnath Singh case. The recent one is this case. Other ones, it depends. If you can recall, maybe in the arguments, you can use it. Now, arguments in favor of retaining sedition. Then we'll come to 150. Why do you have to retain it? Arguments in favor of retaining sedition. In favor of retaining sedition. Fine, first one, what you can say, movements which affect India's sovereignty and integrity continues even today. Movements which affect India's sovereignty and integrity continues even today, like terrorism, Naxalism, Khalistani movement. Movements which affect sovereignty and integrity continues even today, like terrorism and Naxalism. One, so that is first argument, continues even today like terrorism and Naxalism. Two, Supreme Court has already narrowed down the scope. Supreme Court has already narrowed down the scope, hence chances of misuse is less. Supreme Court has already narrowed down the scope, hence chances of misuse is less. Hence the chances of misuse is less. Chances of misuse is less. Point 2, 3. 19 clause 1 subclause A, freedom of speech and expression is not absolute. 19 clause 1 subclause A is not absolute. Obviously, what they have? Reasonable restrictions can be imposed. It is not absolute. Reasonable restrictions can be imposed. Reasonable restrictions can be imposed. Reasonable restrictions can be imposed. Fine, that is third argument. Then, if contempt of court is considered as a crime, if contempt of court is considered a crime, contempt of government can also be considered as a crime. If the contempt of court is considered as a crime, contempt of government can also be considered as a crime. Fine. Even in multiple countries, similar provisions exist. Similar provisions continue. Fine. Then Supreme Court has still not declared it unconstitutional. They have only told narrow down the scope. Supreme Court has not declared it as unconstitutional, or in other words, Supreme Court has upheld the legal validity also, you can say. Supreme Court has still not declared it as unconstitutional. It has still not declared it as unconstitutional. Then arguments against 124A. More or less same arguments will work for 150 also, and it's a very highly expected question for a long time, but chances you never know. Arguments against 124A. Obviously, first one is what? It is a British colonial legacy. It is a British colonial legacy, not suitable for a democratic country. It is a British colonial legacy, not suitable for democratic country. Not suitable for a democratic country. Fine. Not suitable for a democratic country. Then Law Commission had recommended Law Commission had recommended that sedition should be repealed. This was old Law Commission. Actually, the counter you can also say that the sedition provision should be repealed. But then arguments in favor, for that above you go there, where you have written arguments in favor. This is old Law Commission, the recent 122nd Law Commission report, or sorry, not 22nd Law Commission report. 22nd Law Commission report. Above, for in arguments in favor you are writing. 22nd Law Commission report recommended sedition to be continued with safeguards. This is arguments in favor. What you wrote now is the old Law Commission which has told it to be repealed. So the sedition provision should be continued with adequate safeguards, procedural safeguards. With adequate safeguards. Fine. Then next, on arguments against, you can write Obviously, argument is what, as we have mentioned there, dissent and criticism is integral part of speech. I mean, 19 clause 1 subclause A. Dissent and criticism is an integral part of 19 clause 1 subclause A. So 124A violates this. 124 capital A, 124A violates it. (124A) violates it. Then, if you want, UAPA Act. UAPA Act has provisions to tackle such actions. Whatever, sedition is not required, you are telling. UAPA Act is sufficient to tackle any such activities. Then violates, goes against the spirit of ICCPR, Trinity of Rights, goes against the spirit of ICCPR, International Covenant on Civil Political Rights, goes against the spirit of ICCPR. Fine. Okay, so that is broadly the points. So why it has to be repealed? As I told, even Umad Kere case, anyhow you have mentioned that. So then, okay, fine. So that is broadly the provisions. Now, in 150, what is the change? Now write this. I'll show you that exactly wordings how they have put. This is the wordings. Clarify that now. In Bharatiya BNS, in the new BNS, Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, in the new Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, the term sedition is not mentioned. The term sedition is not mentioned. In fact, in Hindi there is a term for now, for 120, 150 there is a broader word called as Deshdroh, which is actually amounting to the term called as treason. But that's fine. So the term sedition is not mentioned, but similar provision exists where? Similar provision is mentioned in section 150. Similar provision is mentioned in 150, section 150. Section 150. Fine. Now, if you look at the wordings, how they use it. Whatever, any kind of expression using what either by spoken, written, visible representation, electronic communication, or this is the keyword, one of the keyword. Financial means also means if you are trying to support financially, money. Okay, what kind of things? Look at the words. Secession, armed rebellion, subversive activities, separatist activities, sovereignty, unity, integrity you are trying to affect. Fine. Punished with, look at the punishment, imprisonment for life or with. So the 3 years becomes 7 years, or if you 7 years if you cross directly, then life imprisonment, or and also with. So this is 150. That's why look at the heading, what the acts endangering sovereignty, unity, integrity of India. That is your section 150. They are not using the term separation, I mean sedition. They are not using the term disaffection, but it is actually much broader scope. That's why few criticisms are that maybe it might be still misused a lot. But some people are telling, of course it is necessary, because how can you not mention these kind of, you have to tackle those activities, no doubt about it. Understood? So that's why the concern, clarify that. What does section 150 say? Any kind of expression, section 150 says that any kind of expression, any kind means you have to take it as word, either through speech or writings or articles, anything, any kind of expression which, which leads to or which excites, any kind of expression which leads to or supports to anything, any kind of expression which supports secessionist or secessionist activity or secession, which supports secession, or just copy the keywords, armed rebellion or subversive activities or separatist activities. Look at the keywords and write them. Secession or armed rebellion or subversive activities or separatist activities or affects sovereignty, unity, integrity of India. So what is the punishment here? Punishment up to 7 years or directly life imprisonment. So actually, the 22nd Law Commission had recommended the same. It's up to 7 years or life imprisonment. More or less same they have taken here. Obviously, you know all this criminal justice reform, Ranbir Singh panel. Punishment up to 7 years or life imprisonment, and of course, addition what you have? Plus fine. Whatever, that's fine. You just remember 7 years in prison, because if in case, again, these are controversial provisions. Normally, UPSC doesn't touch in mains, but you never know. Anything can happen. Punishment up to 7 years or life imprisonment plus fine. Fine. Then arguments for, against, more or less is same, because you need not come up with anything extra here. If you want, look at the bills. And even if they ask arguments in favor of 150, it is still the same. If you look at the points, you'll understand. So whatever you wrote arguments in favor of sedition, same arguments you have to use in favor of which one? 150. Because more or less it is still the same. Only what is not using? The word sedition they are not using. Overall provision is more or less the same, though the wordings are not exactly the same. Fine, exactly same arguments against 150 also more or less the same only. Clear? So that's a very famous question which is pending for at least 3-4 years. Cases, everything, just keep it in mind. You're fine. So then, which topic we need to start then? Okay, that's all is done. So legislature we need to do. Put the heading legislature. So that means parliament, state legislature, everything. A very important topic. Every year you have minimum one, sometimes 2 questions also. Again, there is a huge pattern which gets repeated. You just have to remember that pattern, and that's why, as I keep telling, if you look at PYQs, more or less same pattern repeats, and some current affairs angle, whatever the new issues are there, we need to link to that. Fine. First, we'll go from the reverse order. 2023, what kind of questions? 2023 questions under which topic? Legislature. Role of, is the question, not this the question, this one. Role of presiding officers of state legislature. The pattern is same. 1 year speaker, next year vice president, 3rd year presiding officers of state legislature. Role of presiding officers of the state legislature, 2023. Fine. 2023, another question. Look at the question. Again, same. What is the point? Parliamentary committees. Parliamentary committees. Parliamentary committees. Then 2022, this question. Again, look at the question. Role of Vice President of India as chairperson. Actually, that and this, what is the difference? It is the same only. There is no extra change. It is just which house they are asking is the change. This question. Role of Vice President as chairperson Rajya Sabha. Role of Vice President as chairperson, Rajya Sabha chairperson, 2022. Then 2021. 21. Executives' accountability to Parliament. Executives' accountability to Parliament. Means, do you think Parliament is, this collective responsibility concept, Article 75, Clause 3. Executives' accountability to the Parliament, 2021. The next question, 2021. 2021, they had 3 questions from Parliament. This one. Just write it as what? Legislative Council provisions. Legislative Council provisions, 169, 171. Legislative Council provisions. Then another question in 2021, look at it. This is on same parliamentary committee only, but they have added departmental standing committees. BSc. Departmental standing committees. First subheading will change a bit, means the one, but criticism way forward more or less is same on parliamentary committees. Departmental standing committees. These three are 2021. Then 2020 questions. 2020. Rajya Sabha's role or Rajya Sabha's transformation, you write. 2020, transformation of Rajya Sabha's role. Then again repeat question, repeat in the same pattern, look at it. So you looked at vice president, chairperson, I mean the presiding officers of state legislature. Now this is what? Lok Sabha presiding officer. You can write the same heading itself. Once a speaker, always a speaker. That means which country's model? UK. 2020, once a speaker, always a speaker. Fine. Then 2019, decline in the role of MPs. 2019, decline in the role of MPs. Means why do you think the role of parliamentarians has declined? If answer is yes, how? What are the factors? How will you improve it? Decline in the role of MPs. Then 2019, that is 18. These are basic questions, which is about what? Especially, I mean again committee only, but specifically they have asked about whom? Estimates committee. See, estimates committee one time, another time departmental standing committee, another time in general parliamentary committee. That means which committee is pending? Another very famous one, Public Accounts Committee. The most important committee is pending still. That's why we have that question 2-3 years again we are expecting, because remember 1919 Act, Government of India Act 1919 Act established PSC. It came into force in 2021. I mean sorry 1921. That means almost 100 years done. They have still not asked a question on Public Accounts Committee specifically. They have asked Departmental Committee, Estimates Committee, Overall Parliamentary Committee, but still not touched Public Accounts Committee. Easily you can expect it. So, but more or less same points will overlap. That will do it. So that is 28 in this one. Basic question. Again look at basic question. They are asking about what? Joint session. Look at very basic, what you study in basics of Lakshmikant basics. Constitution has provisions for holding joint session of two houses. Enumerate the occasions. When will joint sitting happen? Also when it cannot. But the check is, when we write answers I will tell you. This one you have to address properly, which is what? Why do you think in some bills, everybody says that in so and so bill joint sitting is there, in so and so bill joint sitting is not there? Why? Why in some bills it is there, why it is not there? In that reasons you need to mention. That's the check. If you address the reason, 1 mark extra. If you generally mention 108, 4 marks. That 5 you will not get. Write that. But 2017 joint session. Then 2014. This maybe this year you may expect a repeat of this question, which is what the question is related to. Codification of parliamentary privileges. Recall the landmark case, recent Supreme Court, what? PV Narasimha Rao case, which is called a CBI case, reversed. Now what did Supreme Court say? That the parliamentary privileges is not absolute. So obviously, so prosecution of MPs can be done. Understood that point? So just mention it as 2014 codification of privileges. Codification of privileges. Then again repeat question if you can recall, but just added. Say this and which one? 19. If you look at this, the role of individual MPs has diminished over the years, hence healthy constructive debates are not witnessed. Exactly, look at this question. Individual parliamentarians' role is on a decline, which in turn affects quality of debates. Exact copy paste statement. But what they did in that question, they have just added which part? The second part, which they are telling to what extent anti-defection law is the reason for this. Because they can't repeat the same question. UPSC's dignity level is something else. You can't expect UPSC to repeat. Hence what they do, either they'll add as a part, either they'll delete as a part. Parliamentary committee becomes departmental committee becomes estimates committee. It is ultimately committee only. Same way, so when they ask about parliamentarians, they have to ask, there is no other option. So hence 1 year they'll add anti-defection law, another year they may ask broader question. Again, if you make another broader question for this pending is what? Parliamentary reforms question, which is more broader. Because 1 year they ask Rajya Sabha specifically, 1 year they ask parliamentarians specifically, another year which is pending question is what? Parliamentary reforms as a whole. That's more broader question. We'll do it, but first write this 2013, decline in MP's role. Decline in the role of MPs. I think more or less that's it is your, okay, then elections we'll do later. Yeah, so these are broadly the questions on legislature. So look at it, you can only identify what kind of themes they are asking. So what are the major themes in legislature? Then every year you have a question, more or less you look at it. Maybe in 15, 16, maybe they did not ask, but more or less every year you have at least one, sometimes two, sometimes three also. And if you have identified what are the major themes they ask, committees, overall parliamentary effectiveness or decline in parliamentarians' role, and which one? Presiding officers, correct, Rajya Sabha. Privileges, 1 year they asked, maybe this year you can still expect, as I told, because of Narasimha Rao case, and then parliamentary reforms, which is a broader question pending, and then yeah, and then mostly that is the point. Or maybe what they can do is Rajya Sabha and Legislative Council they can compare, and then they may ask, maybe like that they want to ask. There is no other way they can ask a question on legislature, because they also have limited scope to ask a mains question. Or they may go to very simple basics like this. There is another which very famous issue which is pending, delimitation commission. Remember, even in prelims you have that question. So that extent if they ask it for mains, because as I told, that tendency is also there. You cannot say 100% every year, but the tendency is there in UPSC, which is if they ask that kind of a theme or area in prelims, chances are there you may get a mains question on that. The same delimitation question you may get. If they ask it as a mains question, what point should we add? All of that is there. I think I have made a question also on that. I will see that, or else I tell you overall points. Clear? So that is a point. Now let's watch first, because I don't think here you don't have to write the basics, because more or less if you write on these answers itself, all your basics gets revised. Correct, right? So because I don't have to tell what is Lok Sabha, those are all prelims points you would have written. You write answers for most of it, so more or less entire parliament chapter content itself will be there in your answer. You revise your answers, that itself is your content then, because examples, points, everything you will get. Fine. Now let's, what is the first major question you have? First we'll write what speaker, so that what will happen, it will get a kind of repetition of, again we did not write what do you mean by president's role, sorry, vice president role, all those things. Directly put the heading, once a speaker, always a speaker. Look at it, what they are telling. Understood? So that means what they are asking, first point, what is this once a speaker, always a speaker, you need to explain. 2, second point what they are asking, do you think that model should be adapted to India? Will it improve objectivity? Third part is what? How will it affect the overall functioning of Lok Sabha? Understood? First, before that what you have to do, first write basics about what do you mean by speak, because the question is about speaker. Then the problems with India's speaker. Then the British model, all those things. First let's write about speaker. Famous, you cannot define speaker, so broadly kind of description. Speaker, Lok Sabha speaker. Lok Sabha speaker is the presiding officer of the house. Lok Sabha speaker is the presiding officer of the house. Presiding officer of the house. Head of the house, as well as head of the house. Keywords, presiding officer of the house, head of the house. He is the presiding officer of the house as well as head of the house. Obviously what he is also called as, she is considered as the guardian of, she is considered as the guardian of powers and privileges of considered as the guardian of the powers and privileges of the House, its members, as well as committees. So it's the basics about speaker you are waiting first. Considered as the guardian of the powers and privileges of the House, its members, as well as committees. Guardian of the powers, privileges of the House, its members and committees. Fine. Then again, it's a 15 marker, means you can write little more basics. If it's 10 marker, you will not have scope, but I am just every question more or less I will tackle it as a 15 marker. In the real time, you have to cut short, and according to your 10 marker demand, you have to cut it. Then speaker derives her powers from 3 sources or multiple sources. Speaker derives her powers from multiple sources. Derives her powers from multiple sources. A. Constitution. B. Lok Sabha rules. C. Conventions. Constitution, Lok Sabha rules. C. Parliamentary convention. Third one is parliamentary convention. Fine. Now you cannot keep on writing about the functions of speaker, all those things, because that will get repeated. Let's link to this. In the recent decades, the office of speaker has been politicized. In the recent decades, the office of speaker has been politicized. The office of speaker has been politicized. Fine. How is it politicized? Because for once if you want to tell, once as British model will be an answer. First tell how is it politicized? First one is what? Obviously, anti-defection law. Anti-defection law. Anti-defection law has been misused to favor the ruling party. ADL has been misused to favor the ruling party. By that you have various instances. Misuse to favor the ruling party. That is 1. 2. Categorizing bills as money bills to bypass Rajya Sabha. Categorizing the bills as money bills to bypass the Rajya Sabha. Bypass the Rajya Sabha. Example, Aadhaar bill case. Example, Aadhaar bill case. And then what? Finance bill, which introduced, Finance bill 2017, which introduced what? Electoral bonds. Even few amendments to PMLA also. Finance bill 2017, which introduced electoral bonds. Then next one, misuse of the power. Misuse of the power to control the proceedings of the House. Misuse of the power to control proceedings of the House to favor ruling party. To favor the ruling party. To favor the ruling party. Fine. So these are kind of various instances. Now we still have, you have to still come back. Hence what will happen in this context, British model of once a speaker, always a speaker. In this context, British model of once a speaker, always a speaker. Once a speaker, always a speaker can provide or can impart, same words used. British model of once a speaker, always a speaker can impart, exact copy, objectivity to the office of Lok Sabha speaker. Can impart objectivity to the speaker of office of Lok Sabha speaker. Objectivity to the office of Lok Sabha speaker. Now for that, what is the points? First one. So what is the point? Once a speaker, first point is what? In UK, speaker is man of the house. In UK, speaker is man of the house. So that is a keyword, single inverted. In UK, speaker is a man of the house. Why is it like that? What is the reason for this? Yes, this is because speaker is not elected, but what? Chosen based on consensus. This is because speaker is not elected, because if it is elected, ruling party will dominate. Speaker is not elected, but chosen based on consensus. Chosen based on consensus. Obviously, that is the first reason. 2, the same point. Once a speaker, always a speaker. Once a speaker, always a speaker. That is second provision. What does that mean? As a convention, the existing speaker, House of Commons speaker this is, the existing speaker is elected unopposed. Means when they go back to the elections, the opposition party will not field a candidate. As a convention, elected unopposed in the elections. Look, election means what? The general elections. As a convention, the existing speaker is elected unopposed in the general election. So, but in India, it's not there. You have to go back and contest again. 3. Third one is what? In UK, speaker decides a money bill in consultation with senior most MPs. In UK, speaker decides a money bill or determines a money bill in consultation with senior most MPs. That's again a loophole in India. In consultation with senior most MPs. Fine. Then next one is what? In UK, speaker should mandatorily give up the party membership. In UK, speaker should mandatorily give up the party membership. What about in India? However, in India, it's an option. In UK, speaker should mandatorily give up the party membership, but in India, it's an option. That in India, it is an option. Then next one, UK speaker is considered as the most powerful speaker in the world. UK speaker is considered as the most powerful speaker in the world. The most powerful speaker in the world. She has exhaustive powers. The most powerful speaker in the world, she has exhaustive powers to control the proceedings of the House. Exhaustive powers to control proceedings of the House. Means suspension, all those things. To control the proceedings of the House. Right, that's the point. Now again, if you want to link, clarify below. These provisions will increase neutrality of Speaker of Lok Sabha. These provisions will increase the neutrality of the office of Lok Sabha. Neutrality of the office of Lok Sabha, thereby improving the parliamentary functions or parliamentary business, if you want to use the same word, thereby improving the parliamentary business. Right? But what you have to do, in addition, other reforms are required with respect to Speaker's office. Other reforms are required with respect to Speaker's office. Other reforms are required with respect to the Speaker's office. Like what are those? First one, as recommended by Law Commission and Supreme Court. As recommended by Law Commission and Supreme Court. Law Commission and Supreme Court. A separate tribunal can be established. A separate tribunal can be established to decide ADL issues, ADL questions, ADL disqualifications. Separate tribunal can be established to decide, to resolve ADL, Anti-Defection Law questions or disqualifications. Anti-defection law disqualifications. Anti-defection law disqualification. That is one. Two. Second one, senior most MPs should be elected as speaker. Senior most MP should be elected as speaker, and they should mandatorily give up party membership. They should mandatorily give up party membership. They should mandatorily give up party membership. Then, Speaker's power with respect to money bill should be subjected to judicial review. Speaker's power with respect to money bill should be subjected to judicial review. Of course, there are some challenges also for it, not so easy. Speaker's power with respect to money bill should be subjected to judicial review. Right? So, these are the broad points. Now, how do you conclude then broadly? Speaker determines the quality of parliamentary debates. Speaker determines the quality of parliamentary debates. Determines the quality of the parliamentary debates. Hence, the office plays a very crucial role. Hence, the office plays a very crucial role. Office plays a very crucial role in transforming the effectiveness of the temple of democracy, that is Parliament. The office plays a very crucial role in transforming the effectiveness of, in enhancing the effectiveness of the temple of democracy. Enhancing the effectiveness of the temple of democracy. Right? So, if you remember in and around this, that is broadly the issue. Of course, another point is what? Functions of office of speaker, if you remember, then more or less the issue is done. The same thing you have to copy paste for vice president and one. So, obviously, what are the functions, all those things, basics you obviously know. So, what do they do, all those things? If you add that, which all questions is done then? If you add that functions of speaker, this question and this question, both answers are, because look at the demand of the question. What does Vice President do with respect to Rajya Sabha? What is their role? Remember the basics which you study in Lakshmikant, same thing. Role of presiding officers of state legislature in maintaining order, impartiality in legislative work, facilitating democratic practices. What you should not do, you should not write just the functions. What you have to there, when then and there, some issues with respect to the officers, and then same, whatever issues are there, same more or less issues you have there also. Same things, there is nothing extraordinary. Clear? So, that functions you just mentioned once, functions of speaker. Just keywords, that's it. Very, very basics, obviously you know all these things. Very quickly I will sum up. So, because that pattern is repeating every year. Maybe this year you may not get that. Anti-defection law separate question is still pending, maybe you can get that question, it depends. Functions of the office, whatever, functions of speaker or presiding officer in general. Obviously, first one is what? Maintain order and decorum. Only keywords I will tell. Maintain order and decorum. Maintain order and decorum. Maintain the order and decorum. A. B. Second one is obviously what? Ultimate interpreter of constitution, rules and conventions, but where? On the floor of the house. Ultimate interpreter of the constitution, rules and convention on the floor of the house. On the floor of the house. On the floor of the house. 2. 3. Of course, for speaker specifically, extraordinary power is what? Money bill determines a money bill. Article 110, Article 110. 109 is special procedure. Determines if a bill is money bill or not. 110. Then presides joint sitting. 108. Presides joint sitting. 108. Presides joint sitting. 108. Then decision maker under ADL. Decision maker under ADL. Decision maker under ADL. Then casting vote. Casting vote. Casting vote. Then head of business, BSc, Business Advisory Committee, GPC, General Purpose Committee, head of Business Advisory Committee, General Purpose Committee, General Purpose Committee, General Purpose Committee, of course, Rules Committee, Rules Committee. Okay, so that is broadly the same points you have to use it with the evening. You still have more, the suspension of members per extra. If you want that also you can write. Under Lok Sabha rules, Speaker has an extraordinary power. Under Lok Sabha rules, Speaker has an extraordinary power to directly suspend an MP. Extraordinary power to directly suspend an MP. Directly suspend an MP. And then if you want additional points, expenses, part of charged expenditure. Expenses, part of charged expenditure. Then has security of tenure, cannot be removed unless by effective majority. Expenses is part of charged expenditure, has security of tenure, can be removed only by effective majority, or cannot be removed unless by effective majority. Can be removed only by effective majority. Only by effective majority. Then her decisions cannot be questioned in the House or courts. Her decisions cannot be questioned in the House or courts. Decision cannot be questioned in the House or courts. Conduct, character cannot be questioned except during removal or whatever, motion, resolution. Conduct and character cannot be discussed except during removal. Conduct and character cannot be questioned except during removal. Right? So these are broadly the points. If you remember this in and around that, 3 questions automatically the same. And so there is nothing extraordinary beyond this. Right? I just go through it once because 3 questions once for all we have solved. That's a pattern. Another way they can ask a speaker question is what? They have to link it to ADL specifically. That will become an ADL question that we have done. We will discuss that ADL specifically. Because last year again Shiv Sena issue was the Maharashtra twice Shiv Sena issue, broadly linked to ADL itself. Remember merger of parties. That can become a ADL question, or they can make it as a election question also. Political parties, this, that and everything. But it's always in use, anti-defection law. Right, so that is broadly the question related to presiding officers. What is the next one then? Rajya Sabha. Remember that Rajya Sabha rules or parliamentary effect, anything you can write. Where's that Rajya Sabha question? Committees also is there. We'll come to committees. This one. It's a very, see, either they should ask on Rajya Sabha or they should ask on council. 2020 they asked Rajya Sabha, 21 they asked, look at exactly the same question. Not exactly, but the same pattern. Because if they ask Rajya Sabha there, they have to ask council. Understood? So speaker, vice president, or speaker, presiding officer, state legislature. Rajya Sabha means next year council. So that's a major themes. Where is that? This one. Please note that. Once you write Rajya Sabha, overall anything about Rajya Sabha will finish up once for all. So if you revise this answer, automatically anything related to Rajya Sabha should be there. That is just they have used wordings that it has been transformed from a useless stepney tier to most useful supporting organ. The point is what they are telling. How Rajya Sabha has become more effective. Useless stepney tier to most useful means effectiveness has increased. So for that they are asking what are the factors, areas in which transformation. That we write overall Rajya Sabha as a whole. you will get the overall points. Rajya Sabha's transformation. Right, first write the basics. Indian Parliament has a bicameral legislature. Indian Parliament is a bicameral legislature. Indian Parliament is a bicameral legislature. One second. Streaming correct again. Internet issue. I think you okay. Check my sorry. Okay, na? Okay, you have all internet issue. Okay, there. Check my answer. Okay, no problem. Indian Parliament is a has a whatever bicameral legislature, and when did they establish? Clarify that. Rajya Sabha was established. Rajya Sabha by that time it is not called as Rajya Sabha. Rajya Sabha was established by which one? 1919 Act. Or bicameral legislature was established by 1919 Act. 1919 Act. Fine. Below that, then Indian Constitution. Indian Constitution describes Rajya Sabha as Council of States. Indian Constitution describes Rajya Sabha as Council of States, which represents both states as well as union territories. The basics of Rajya Sabha you are writing beginning. Council of States, which represents both states as well as union territories. Which represents both states as well as union territories. And then it is famously described as, we'll write the basics, then we'll go to the, it is famously described as House of Elders. Famously described as House of Elders and the House of Dignified Debates. House of Elders and or as well as the House of Dignified Debates. The House of Dignified Debates. It has acted as what? It acts as a check. It acts as a check against. So basics we are just first describing about it. It acts as a check against the populistic tendencies of Lok Sabha. Check against the populistic tendencies of Lok Sabha. Fine. Then below that, at present it has maximum strength of 250. Maximum strength of 250. Maximum strength of 250. Then below that, 245 members function as of now. 245 members function as of now, which includes 12 nominated members. So only basics I am telling. Then we'll go to the critical analysis. It has 245 members, which includes 12 nominated members. This is the big picture. Now what you have to go? Use the linking statements. In the post-independence era, Rajya Sabha has, transformed. Transformed itself to evolve as just use that keyword, to evolve as the most useful supporting organ. To evolve as the most useful supporting organ. Most useful supporting organ. That is the point. Now, how has it been transformed? For that you have to write. First one, significant bills have been introduced by Rajya Sabha or in Rajya Sabha. Significant bills have been introduced in Rajya Sabha. Important bills have been introduced in Rajya Sabha like Gram Nyayalayas Act or Gram Nyayalayas Bill. Significant bills have been introduced in Rajya Sabha related to Gram Nyayalayas rights of transgenders. Gram Nyayalayas Bill, rights of transgenders bill. Rights of transgenders bill. Point 2. Rajya Sabha has blocked. Rajya Sabha has blocked. Rajya Sabha has blocked certain bills. Rajya Sabha has blocked certain bills leading to joint sitting. Leading to the joint sitting. Example, Dowry Prohibition Bill, POTA. Dowry Prohibition Bill, and 2, POTA, Prevention of Terrorism Act. That's what which got repealed because of that. POTA. Point 2, say, how it has blocked. Then it has protected the interests of states. Protected the interests of states in case of 101st Amendment GST. Interests of states in case of GST bill, or better you write 101st CA. In bracket you can write GST. 101st Amendment bill, that is GST, and which one? Land Acquisition Bill. Land Acquisition Amendment Act, okay fine, Land Acquisition issue, Land Acquisition Bill. Land Acquisition Bill, that's what they famously called as. Hence it is famously called as safety valve of Indian federal polity. Hence it is famously described as safety valve of Indian federal democratic polity. Famously described as the safety valve of Indian democratic polity, or especially keyword is federal. Safety valve of the Indian federal polity, or federal democratic polity is also fine. But those are all keywords. Safety valve of Indian federal polity. That's another one. Next one. Nominated members. Nominated members has contributed to. Nominated members has contributed to dignified debates. Dignified debates. And enhance the quality of MPs or the House. Contributed to dignified debates and enhanced the quality of the House. Efficiency of the House, anything, enhance the quality of the House. Quality of the House. Then, Rajya Sabha has discussed significant issues like, Rajya Sabha has discussed issues related to farm bills, surrogacy. Rajya Sabha has discussed issues related to farm bills, surrogacy, data protection bill in detail compared to Lok Sabha. Farm bills, surrogacy, data protection bill in detail compared to Lok Sabha. Fine. Then next one. The number of functioning days. Effectiveness of the committees. The number of functioning days. Effectiveness of the committee is high compared to Lok Sabha. And effectiveness of the committees is high compared to Lok Sabha. Fine. Even another one. It has used motion of thanks effectively. It has used motion of thanks effectively to check the dominance of ruling party in Lok Sabha. It has used motion of thanks effectively to check the dominance of ruling party in Lok Sabha. To check dominance of ruling party in the Lok Sabha. Check the dominance of ruling party in Lok Sabha. And those are all various ways effectiveness. But obviously what has happened? However, loopholes. However, it also suffers from various limitations. However, it also suffers from various limitations. It also suffers from various limitations. First is what? Inequality in representation of states. Inequality in the representation of states. Inequality, or in other words, dominance of few states. Inequality in representation of states. Simple. Morning also we discussed what is that? UP has 31 Rajya Sabha seats, which is more than all the northeast states combined. UP has 31 Rajya Sabha seats, which is more than all the northeast states combined. More than all the northeast states combined. There itself write the solution. As recommended by Punchi Commission. As recommended by Punchi Commission, obviously which model you have to follow? US Senate model can be followed. This is a Punchi Commission recommendation, so anytime you can write. US Senate model should be followed. Obviously for what? To provide equal representation for all states. To provide equal representation for all states. Equal representation for all states. And that is first major one. Two, Rajya Sabha has been bypassed. Rajya Sabha has been bypassed, especially which one? In case of money bills. Rajya Sabha has been bypassed in case of money bills, thereby affecting parliamentary scrutiny. Thereby affecting parliamentary scrutiny. Fine. Then for solution, what? Solution. First one is what? Speaker's, like I wrote in the previous question, Speaker's power with respect to money bill. Speaker's power with respect to money bill should be checked. With respect to money bill should be checked. And Rajya Sabha's recommendation on money bills should be taken seriously. And Rajya Sabha's recommendations on money bill should be taken seriously. Should be taken seriously. Should be taken seriously. Then Rajya Sabha, it is criticized as, you can write, it is criticized as a secondary chamber. It is criticized as a secondary chamber or dilatory chamber. Secondary chamber means lower house. Though it is actually by name they call it as upper house. Secondary chamber or dilatory chamber. Dilatory means what? Delay. Everything you will block deliberately to delay because it deliberately blocks important bills, or it has deliberately blocked, as it has deliberately blocked important bills. Deliberately blocked important bills. That's why there's a criticism, dilatory chamber or revisionary chamber. Fine, that is another angle. Next one. The quality of nominated MPs has declined. The quality of nominated MPs has declined. Quality of nominated MPs has declined. Quality of nominated MPs has declined. So solution there. Solution as followed in UK. as followed in UK's House of Lords. Same, House of Commons, House of Lords, as followed in UK's House of Lords. Non-party, non-political people should be nominated to the House. Non-party, non-political people. Non-party, non-political people should be nominated to the House. Should be nominated to the House. Then, Rajya Sabha has no role. Rajya Sabha has no role in or with respect to budget, which is the most important bill. Rajya Sabha has no role with respect to budget, which is the most important bill. Of course, we agree that's a reason why they have not included them, which is the most important bill. Then again, solution is what then? Solution, Rajya Sabha's recommendations on budget. Rajya Sabha's recommendations on budget should be taken seriously by Lok Sabha. Should be taken seriously by Lok Sabha. Right? Then there is no provision for adjournment motion. There is no provision for adjournment motion in Rajya Sabha. There is no provision for adjournment motion in Rajya Sabha. Hence, what they use? Rule 267. Rule 267 provides similar powers. Rule 267 provides similar powers. 267 provides similar powers. However, it was used previously only in demonetization. That was used for the last time in demonetization issue. However, it was used last time in the demonetization issue. So that means almost how many years? You can say 8 years they have still not used. Last year, Manipur case also they did not use. It was used only in the demonetization issue, and last time in the demonetization issue. Right? Okay, so like that broadly, whatever provisions with respect to Rajya Sabha. Yeah, fine. So if you remember broadly in and around this Rajya Sabha one, automatically answer will be done. Fine. Again, just go through the points. Now, same pattern as I told, which question you have to see? Not exactly same, but patterning. This is the kind of basics question. Second part, they have linked it to Legislative Council, current status, working, illustrations, like in which states, how the overall, I think I framed a question also on this. Okay. Anti-Defection Law. Parliamentary Reforms. Public Accounts Committee. Reservation. Okay. But fine. I'll make the answer, don't worry. Question. So just because you have written Rajya Sabha, just provisions related to this. Recall what are the provisions related to Legislative Council? Directly put the heading Legislative Councils. Article 169. Legislative Councils, Article 169. Yeah, what does it say? The strength of the council. Strength of the council. Strength of the council. So what is the minimum? What is the maximum? Yes. So less than 1/3, but before minimum is what? 40. Strength of the council is 42, 1/3 of legislative council. 402, 1/3 of the strength of assembly. 40 to the strength of the 1/3 of the strength of assembly. Fine. 1/3 of the strength of assembly. Then creation or abolition of council. Under 169 itself we have that. Creation or abolition of council. What is the procedure for that? Yes, assembly should pass a resolution by special majority. Assembly should pass resolution by special majority. Should pass resolution, same, absolute and 2/3. Pass a resolution by special majority. Then second is both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha should agree it by simple majority. Both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha should agree by simple majority. Both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha should agree by simple majority. That is basic points. If you want another point, you add exact strength of council determined by Parliament. Exact strength of council determined by Parliament. The exact strength of the council determined by Parliament. Then 171, composition of council. 171, composition of council. Composition of council. Obviously, you know, first is what? 1/3 elected by local bodies. 1/3 elected by local bodies. Next 1/3 by MLAs. These are all basics which you would have studied. Maybe analysis part that normally misses in prelims. 1/3 council by local bodies, 1/3 by MLAs, then 1/12 by whom? Yes, 1/12 by teachers, minimum 3 years standing. 1/12 by teachers, minimum 3 years standing. Standing means what? Minimum 3 years experience. By teachers, 3 years standing, minimum 3 years standing. Same 1/12 by graduates with 3 years standing, minimum 3 years standing. 1/12 by teachers with minimum 3 years standing. 1/12 by graduates with minimum 3 years standing. Then 1/6 nominated by governor. 1/6 nominated by governor. From same, you add which field? Cooperative society you add. Arts, science, social service, literature and cooperatives. 1/6 nominated by governor from fields of arts, science, social service, literature and cooperatives. That's a basic composition, 171 and cooperatives. Right? Now comes your functioning of legislative councils. Functioning of legislative councils. There is no major advantage actually, you have to critically analyze. Functioning of the legislative councils. Use a linking sentence. Compared to Rajya Sabha. Compared, and of course you know how many states has council, all those things will be knowing. Compared to Rajya Sabha, legislative councils are ineffective. Compared to Rajya Sabha, legislative councils are ineffective. Councils are ineffective. Obviously, because there's very lot of reasons are there. First one, what are the major first reason? There is no provision of joint sitting in the state legislature. no provision of joint sitting in state legislature. In other words, who will easily dominate? Assembly dominates council. No provision of joint sitting in at the state legislature. Assembly dominates council. Assembly dominates council. Assembly dominates council. 2. If a bill is introduced by council and rejected by assembly, it ends. If a bill is introduced by council and rejected by assembly, it ends. And rejected by council, it ends. And 3. No permanency to the house. No permanency to the house. Because you can create it, you can abolish it. Unlike Rajya Sabha, that's the point. No permanency to the house, unlike Rajya Sabha. Unlike Rajya Sabha. If you want, that's what is illustrations with suitable illustrations. For example, Andhra Pradesh Legislature or Andhra Pradesh Assembly passed a resolution to abolish council. Andhra Pradesh Assembly passed a resolution to abolish council. But who wanted it? West Bengal and Odisha passed the same to create. West Bengal and Odisha passed resolutions to create the council. To create the council. Then, council is criticized as house of fallen horses. Means those who can't get elected as MLAs use it the indirect way. Council is criticized as house of fallen horses. House of fallen horses. Automatically hence what it becomes? Hence, it has become a secondary chamber. Hence, it has become a secondary chamber. It has become a secondary chamber. Then, the composition of council. The composition of council. The composition of council. The composition of council is outdated. The composition of council is outdated. Because imagine graduates, teachers, all those things at that time they would have felt that okay, graduates and teachers are very less, they will take a dignified decisions. But now you can't use that logic. The composition of council is outdated. It has diluted its efficiency. It has diluted its efficiency. Diluted its efficiency. Overall, that's the points. Then, okay, another point if you want. Council is modelled on House of Lords. UK's House of Lords. Council is modelled, is based on House of Lords. However, Rajya Sabha is based on US Senate. That's why weakness is high. Council is modelled on UK House of Lords, while Rajya Sabha is modelled on US Senate. Rajya Sabha is modelled on US Senate. Okay, these are all bigger picture. Now, then how will reform? Way forward. Way forward. According to Punchi Commission, way forward, according to Punchi Commission, council should represent the interest of local bodies. Council should represent the interest of local bodies like Rajya Sabha represents the interests of states. Councils should represent the interests of local bodies like Rajya Sabha represents the interests of states. So, they represent states, council should represent local bodies like Rajya Sabha represents the interests of states. Rajya Sabha represents the interests of states. Fine. That's one. Two. Second one. again composition, this Punchi Commission itself, the composition should be reformed, restructured. Composition should be restructured based on US Senate or Rajya Sabha model. Should be restructured based on the US Senate or Rajya Sabha model. Then the House should be made permanent. The House should be made permanent to increase its reputation. The House should be made permanent to increase its reputation. To increase its reputation. Then joint sitting provision should be introduced to make the council a truly revisionary chamber. Joint sitting provision should be introduced to make the House, to make the council a truly revisionary chamber. A truly revisionary chamber. Revisionary. A truly revisionary chamber. Right? Okay, so those are broadly the points related to the council angle. Right, so that is both Rajya Sabha and council. Then before committees, committee is also there obviously. Election Commission will leave it. Okay, 3 questions. Okay, one is parliamentary effectiveness. Committees. This, okay, not this. One, not even this. Okay, this is one question on committee. What is the second question? So overall providing then parliamentary committees. Overall details. Why do you think committees are considered to be useful for parliamentary work? Estimates committee. This is individual parliamentarians. This is speaker. Again committees. So I think 3 questions have been asked on committees, 3 on speaker. So directly overall we will write on committees once for all, big picture. Then public accounts committee we will separately discuss. First for the broader structure, if you have forgotten, I will write the structure first. Okay, write the basics of parliamentary committees. The moment you write there, bracket you write Article 105, 118. Article 105, 118. 105, 118. Constitution mentions about it. Constitution mentions about it, but Constitution mentions about it, but the details are mentioned in the rules. Constitution mentions about it, but details are mentioned in the rules. Rules of the House. Details are mentioned in the rules. Then criteria for a parliamentary committee. Overall picture I will give so that more or less everything should be covered there. Criteria for a parliamentary committee. A. Members elected by the House or nominated by head of the House. Members elected by the House or nominated by head of the House. B. Function under presiding officer and submit a report to him. Function under presiding officer and submit report to her. And submits the report to her. 3. Help of Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha Secretariat. Gets the help of Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha Secretariat. Gets the help of Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha Secretariat. Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha Secretariat. When directly write the classification. First you take it as what? You can make it as, okay, or else we'll write like this. First one, okay, first we'll make ad hoc itself. Ad hoc committees. because that is what is the structure part they have asked in 1 year. Ad hoc committees, under that A. Inquiry committee, example, ad hoc committees, temporary. Inquiry committee, example, Bofors committee, example, Bofors committee, stock market committee, the Arshad Mehta committee. That's a famous one. Recently also, if you can recall, they kept on demanding JPC on Adani issue, all those things. Bofors committee, stock market committee, those are all inquiry committee. B, advisory committee. Example, Joint Parliamentary Committee on Data Protection Bill. Example, it can be select or joint, but I am saying a specific example. Example, JPC on Data Protection Bill, Surrogacy Bill. JPC on Data Protection. These are recent times famous bills, famous committees, advisory committees. JPC on Data Protection Bill, Surrogacy Bill. That is one major ad hoc committee. Then comes your 2, which is broadly, this is the structure part, 1 year they have asked. Standing committee, under that A, finance committees, under that first, public account committee, second, estimates committee, that is another year what they have asked. Third, committee on ESU. Public Accounts Committee, Estimates Committee, Committee on Public Undertakings. Committee on Public Undertakings. That is all 3 under finance committees. Then B, departmental standing committees. That's another year they have asked. See, this question they have asked. Overall question they have asked. This specific question also they have asked. Then C, other committees. Example, Business Advisory Committee, General Purpose Committee, Rules Committee. This is very famous theme area. General Purpose Committee, Business Advisory Committee, Rules Committee. Right? So that is structure part. Now comes your overall significance you have to write. That even for departmental standing committees also you get the same. Significance of parliamentary committees. Why do you think they are important? Then automatically loophole, automatically way forward. More or less even in this departmental standing committee also same points will come. Significance of parliamentary committees, importance. Significance of parliament. A. First one, MPs neither have the time nor expertise. MPs neither have the time nor expertise. Neither have the time nor expertise. Fine, first one. 2. DSCs, overall I am telling, departmental standing committees. Departmental standing committees scrutiny the demand for grants. DSC scrutiny the demand for grants of their respective ministries. Scrutiny demand for grants of their respective committees. Demand for grants of their respective committees. 3. They provide, or advisory committees also again, they provide recommendations to improve the bills. They call it as what? Refining the bills. Recommendations to refine the bill. Example, JPC on data protection bill led to redrafting of the bill. JPC on data protection bill led to redrafting. That's when finally became digital personal data protection bill. JPC on data protection bill led to redrafting of the bill. Redrafting of the bill. Fine, that's another one. Next one. It enhances financial accountability of the executive, especially which one? Finance committees. Enhances financial accountability of the executive, especially PSC. Enhances financial accountability of the executive, especially PSC. So that PSC itself is separate detailed question then, especially PSC. Then it functions outside the floor of the house, hence what will not apply? ADL will not apply. They function or it functions outside the floor of the house. Functions outside the floor of the house, hence ADL will not apply. Functions outside the floor of the house, hence ADL will not apply. Fine, then Rajya Sabha MPs and opposition MPs have Rajya Sabha MPs and opposition MPs have greater role or greater representation in these committees. Rajya Sabha MPs and opposition MPs have greater representation in these committees, which obviously increases accountability of executive. Greater representation in these committees hence increases accountability of executive. Increases accountability of the executive. Then meetings are held closed door. Meetings are held closed door. Hence MPs can take, meetings are held closed door, MPs can take rational, objective decisions. Hence MPs can take rational, objective decisions. MPs can take rational, objective decisions. Right? So these are all broadly the overall effectiveness of parliamentary committees. You still have so many, then automatically loopholes, limitations of the committees. Limitations of committees. Obviously, the first major limitation is what? Recommendations are only advisory, not binding. Recommendations are only advisory, not binding. Recommendations are only advisory, not binding. Write the solution then and there itself. Solution. Solution 1. Recommendations should be made binding on the government. Else, action taken report or reason should be given. Recommendation should be made binding on the government, or you can say else reason should be given for non-acceptance. Recommendation should be made binding on the government. Else reason should be given for, else reason should be given. That means if you don't accept, else reason should be given. Who told it? Bracket NCRWC, even second ARC. NCRWC, second ARC. So both have recommended this. 2. Second major loophole is what? It is not mandatory. It is not mandatory. It is not mandatory. It is not mandatory for the bills to be given to these committees. It is not mandatory for bills to be given to these committees. Examples. Example, RTI amendment bill. RTI amendment bill, Government of NCT Delhi bill, RTI amendment bill, Government of NCT Delhi bill, passed without committees, without giving to committees. Government of NCT Delhi bill passed without consulting the committees. Without consulting the committees. Then obviously solution is what? Rules should be amended. Rules should be amended to mandatory. Rules should be amended to mandatorily submit the bills to committees. Again NCRWC. Rules should be amended to mandatorily submit the bills to committees. Mandatorily submit the bills to committees. Again NCRWC. National Commission to review the working of Constitution. Right, the second loophole, second solution there itself. Third one. Third measure is what? Okay. Even in these committees, MPs take their party stand. Even in these committees, MPs take their party stand, thereby making it ineffective. Thereby making it ineffective. Thereby making it ineffective. Right? Now, next one is what? As the meetings are held closed door, lack of transparency in its functioning. As meetings are held closed door, lack of transparency in the functioning. Meetings are held closed door, lack of transparency in its functioning. Then solution, as followed in UK, lack of transparency in the functioning. Solution, as followed in UK, important committee meetings should be, as followed in UK, important committees meetings should be obviously what? Live streamed, or you can say made transparent. Important committee meetings should be live streamed. Means let the people get to know. Then tenure of most of the committees is 1 year. Tenure of most of the committees is 1 year. Hence, MPs cannot develop expertise. Tenure of most of the committees is 1 year. Hence, MPs cannot develop expertise. MPs cannot develop expertise. Again, solution, increase it to 2 years, NCRWC. Increase it to 2 years. Who? NCRWC. And in addition, what you have to do? Addition, which is what? Help of expertise, that is specialist. Help of expertise should be increased. Help of expertise should be increased. Means the so-called economists or security experts, anybody, help of economists or help of expertise, experts you can say, should be increased. Specialists, help of the specialists should be increased. That's another one. Okay, so then Public Accounts Committee all separately will mention, because that's a detailed question again. So that is broadly so many questions, 2-3 questions related to committees. Specifically, which one you have to see now? Public Accounts Committee we have to write. So then Anti-Defection Law question we have to write. Then overall parliamentary decline or parliamentary reforms. So you can say 3 topics are pending under legislature. If you do that, any question on legislature, let them ask, and codification. So 4 issues are pending, parliamentary privileges. So we'll mostly finish it off. Say take some 10 minutes break. So if you finish those 4 issues, let them ask any question on parliament. Okay, so related to this, what we'll finish off is, because this is a probable question which you can expect any time. So the subheading, Public Accounts Committee. So just extrapolating that pattern. Public Accounts Committee. Right? You don't have to write all those things. Obviously, the structure will remain the same. What are the basic functions of it? What are its significance? What are its loopholes? First, basics if you want to write. Established in 1921 based on 1919 Act. Established in 1921 based on 1919 Act. Government of India Act 1919. Right? That 105, 118 I have already told you that they derived from parliamentary committees, means you have to mention 105, 118 article. Then basics, composition. How many? 22. Just split it very quickly. Composition 22, split it. 15 Lok Sabha, 7 Rajya Sabha. Then how are they elected? Elected based on PRSTV. Because if it's a 15 marker, remember as I keep telling, when it is a 15 marker, you have a scope to write little more basics, because or else you cannot write 3 sides, it's impossible. But if it's a 10 marker, you don't have to write too much of basics, directly jump to the demand of the question. Clear? So what is the point? Elected based on PRSTV. Then what is the term? 1 year. Term 1 year. Then who is not a member? Ministers cannot be members. Minister cannot be members. Then as a convention, who is the head? Opposition member, opposition MP is the head. As a convention, opposition MP is the head. Then write basic functions, just a small functions. Obviously what they do, first one, scrutinies the CAG audit reports. Scrutinies CAG audit reports on appropriation account, finance account, PSU. Scrutinies CAG audit reports on appropriation account, finance account, PSU. PSUs. That is first one. Then access to any reports or accounts. Access to any reports or accounts. Any reports or accounts. Right, that is major one. Then significance. Those are the major functions that itself you can expand, that's it. Significance, importance. Keyword, watchdog of public purse. Watchdog of public purse, thereby enhancing financial accountability of executive. Watchdog of public purse, thereby enhancing financial accountability of the executive. Financial accountability of the executive. That is the first one. Second one, because of PRST, what will happen? Opposition will have greater control, or you can say greater representation in PSC. Opposition will have greater representation in PSC. Obviously, hence what is more? Hence better checks and balances on ruling party. Opposition will have greater say, greater representation in PSC, hence better checks and balances on the ruling party. Better checks and balances on the ruling party. Then this one is actually not okay. Okay, correct. This one examines demand for excess grants. Examines the demand for excess grants before they are introduced in Parliament. Before they are introduced in Parliament. Then CAG is considered as the friend, philosopher, guide of PAC. CAG considered as the friend, philosopher, guide of PAC. Then examines expenditure not only from legal view, examines expenditure not only from legal view but also from the economy policy perspective. Not only from legal view but also from the economy and policy perspective. But also from the economy and policy perspective. From the economy and policy perspective. Then forum for building consensus across the parties. Acts as a forum to build consensus across parties. Forum to build consensus across political parties. And limitations. A lot of limitations will overlap, obviously. Limitations. First one, post-mortem committee. Criticized as post-mortem committee. Post-mortem committee. Point 2, no mechanism to enforce corrective measures. No mechanism to enforce the corrective measures. No mechanism to enforce corrective measures. 3, obvious it is. Recommendations are only advisory, not binding. Recommendations are advisory, not binding. Then, no authority to prohibit departmental spending. No authority to prohibit departmental spending. Then, cannot issue any orders. Cannot issue any orders. Then, cannot examine the policy in a broader sense. Cannot examine the policy in a broader sense. Then closed door meetings, hence no transparency. Cannot examine policy in a broader way, broader manner. Meetings are closed door, hence lack of transparency. Meetings are closed door, hence lack of transparency. Then members do not have expertise to understand technicalities of CAG reports. Members do not have expertise to understand technical details of CAG reports. Do not have the expertise to understand technical details of the CAG report. Technical details of CAG report. Fine. Then obviously way forward. Fine. First one, just copy that. All India Conference of Chairpersons of Parliamentary PSCs. All India Conference of Chairpersons of Parliamentary Committees. All India Conference of Chairpersons of Parliamentary Committees. So what did they, even so many are there, Shunglu panel was also there. What did they tell? PAC should be consulted in selection of CAG. PAC should be consulted while selecting CAG. PAC should be consulted while selecting CAG. While selecting CAG. Point 2. Experts' assistance should be used for technical issues. Experts' assistance should be used for technical issues. Experts' assistance should be used for technical issues. Then, to avoid politicization, like for example 2G spectrum, pole block issue, all those things, to avoid politicization, PAC should focus on policy implementation rather than the policy itself. To avoid politicization, PAC should focus more on policy management, implementation. PAC should focus more on policy implementation rather than policy itself. Focus on policy implementation rather than policy itself. Then, which is common one, its recommendation should be binding on governments, else its recommendation should be binding on government, and ATR, action taken report, should be submitted. Recommendation should be binding on government and action taken report should be submitted. Action taken report should be submitted. Then, as followed in UK, PAC meetings should be live streamed. As followed in UK, PAC meeting should be live streamed. Fine? Yeah, so you can use the traffic conclusion. PAC is famously described as mother of all committees. PAC is famously described as mother of all committees. Mother of all committees. Hence, holistic reforms are needed. Hence, holistic reforms are needed to increase its effectiveness. Hence, holistic reforms are needed to increase its effectiveness. Holistic reforms are needed to increase its effectiveness to enhance financial accountability of executive. To enhance the financial accountability of the executive. Financial accountability of the executive. Right? That's the overall committees one. Committees, this one. Estimates committee will not repeat, don't worry, because it's not a very strong issue. PAC is a very important committee question which is pending for long time. So, if they repeat the question, if they ask the question this year, just exactly copy paste the point, 50% marks they have to give. There is no other option for them. Yes, because that is how there is no other extra. Maybe extra what you can do, maybe some PAC famous report on so and so 2G, maybe that extra 1 or 2 additions you have to do, or else this is more than enough even for a 15 marker. Because there is nothing else they can ask on PAC. Fine, that is about committees. As I told DSC, they have already asked Departmental Standing Committee, that more or less is PAC. It's ultimately DSC is part of Parliamentary Committee itself. Estimates is done, okay, fine. Then what is an Anti-Defection Law? Anti-Defection Law. That's broadly related to Parliament, that's why I have made it as part of this, which is a very famous question, and I think more or less everybody will be knowing the provisions, but as an answer format you need to have that. Anti-Defection Law. Fine. First what you have to write? First write the basics, provisions, then significance, then limitations, then way forward, in and around everything. First basic aspect is what? Basic constitutional aspects. Which amendment? 52nd Amendment 1985, 10th schedule. 52nd Amendment 1985 and then 10th schedule. Then major provisions. What are the major provisions? Provisions. First one is what? If a legislator voluntarily gives up. So voluntarily gives up is the keyword. If a legislator voluntarily gives up the party membership. If a legislator voluntarily gives up party membership, it leads to disqualification. It leads to disqualification. Fine, that is one. Two. It leads to disqualification. Second one, legislator should follow the directives of the party. Legislator should follow directives of the party. Fine. For that, what is the exception? Exception. Take the permission of the party, or means if you want to go against the party. Exception is take the permission of the party, or action should be condoned by the party within 15 days. Take the permission of party, or action condoned means forgiven, or the action should be condoned by party within 15 days. Action should be condoned by the party within 15 days. This is for party legislators. Second, independent members cannot join a party, or if they join any party, disqualification. Independent members disqualified if they join any party. If they join any party. Disqualification if they join any party. Then nominated members can join a party within, obviously 6 months. Nominated members can join a party within 6 months. Can, not must, can join a party within 6 months. Can join a party within 6 months. Then presiding officers has an option to give up party membership. Presiding officers has option to give up party membership. Not again mandatory. Remember in speaker also we wrote this. Option to give up party membership. Option to give up party membership. Then write about this 91st Amendment 2003. 91st Amendment 2003. A legislator disqualified under ADL. Legislator disqualified under ADL cannot be appointed as minister. Legislator disqualified under ADL cannot be appointed as minister. Cannot be appointed as minister and cannot hold a remunerative position. Cannot be appointed as a minister and cannot hold remunerative position. Means remunerative means overall government is giving you salary, that kind of, and cannot hold a remunerative position. Then next one again 91st. Is under 91st you are writing. Only mergers of the political parties will be exempted from disqualification. Only merger of political parties will be exempted from disqualification. Mergers of political parties exempted from disqualification. Mergers exempted from disqualification. First tell what do you mean by merger? Greater than or equal to 2/3 of the members of the party in the house. Not as a whole, in the house you have to take. Greater than or equal to 2/3 of members of the party in the respective house. They call it as legislative party. Greater than or equal to 2/3 of the members of the house in the respective house. In the respective house should form their own group. They can come out. They don't have to necessarily join a party. Like look at what is his name? Eknath Shinde's group. Should form a, what is it? Should form their own group or merge with other party. Or merge with other party. Simple example is Shiv Sena, Eknath Shinde's Shiv Sena group on obviously Ajit Pawar's. One example is it's fine. Example, Eknath Shinde's Shiv Sena group. So they have not merged, they have just separated. That's also fine. Example, even Ajit Pawar, they have not merged with any party. They are just separated. So not necessary that 2/3 you have to go and join a party. You can just come out of as a group. You are still a merger. Example, Eknath Shinde Shiv Sena group. Then another one, splits will lead to disqualification. 91st, split. Split means minimum 1/3. Split will lead to disqualification. Splits will lead to disqualification. Then, obviously, who is the decision maker? Presiding officer is the decision maker. Presiding officer is decision maker. Presiding officer is decision maker. Then they Quixote Holohan case. Quixote Holohan case. Decision subjected to judicial review. Quixote Holohan case. Speaker's decision subjected to judicial review. Speaker's decision subjected to judicial review. Right? These are the broader provisions. Now, significance. Why was it brought? Significance. First one, former PM Rajiv Gandhi described it as. Former PM Rajiv Gandhi described it as. Rajiv Gandhi described it as first step to clean Indian public life. Rajiv Gandhi described it as the first, because he was the PM at that time, the first step to clean Indian public life or Indian political life. The first step to clean the Indian political life. Fine. 2. Curbs or tries to curb, at least curbs the influence of money. Curbs the influence of money and or lure of money and positions. Curbs the influence, lure, attraction of money and positions in political life. Money and position in the political life. And that is second major, you can say, kind of advantage. 3. Recognizes political parties for the first time. Because till then, Constitution did not even talk about it. Recognizes political parties for the first time. Recognizes political parties for the first time. For the first time. Fine, that's another one. Then next one. Merger of political parties. Merger of political parties recognizes the political dynamics. Recognizes the political dynamics. Okay, so now loopholes. What are the loopholes then? There are so many loopholes, obviously, you know. Loopholes. First one is what? No time limit. No time limit for decisions. No time limit for the decisions, hence misused by the presiding officer. No time limits for the decisions, hence misused by presiding officer. Misused by the presiding officer. Misused by presiding officer. 2. Politicized the office of speaker. or politicization of the office of Speaker favoring the ruling party. Politicization of the office of Speaker favoring the ruling party. Favoring the ruling party. Then transforms legislator into puppets in the hands of party. Transforms legislator into puppet in the hands of party. In the hands of party. Then curbs freedom of speech and expression of legislator, thereby their parliamentary privileges. Curbs freedom of speech and expression of the legislator. Freedom of speech and expression of the legislator, thereby their privileges. 105. Curbs the freedom of speech and expression of the legislator and thereby their privileges. 105. Thereby their privileges, that is 105. And then allows wholesale defections, that is merger, but prohibits retail defection. Allows wholesale defection but prohibits retail defection. Prohibits retail defection. Right? Yeah. So then, any other loopholes can you recall? It is not prevented. All those things you know. So if you want, there's so many examples you have in the recent times in Madhya Pradesh, in Karnataka, in if you want, they can write that. In practice, it has not prevented defections. In practice, it has not prevented defections. Example, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Rajasthan issues. In practice, it has not prevented defections. Example, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra issue. Then, obviously, automatically way forward. According to NCRWC, legislator disqualified under ADL. Legislator disqualified under ADL should only contest in the next general election. Legislator disqualified under ADL should be allowed to contest only general. In other words, as of now they contest by election also. So only general election. Means they should be disqualified for the remaining term of the house. They should only be allowed to contest the general election. Fine? Only be allowed to contest general election. Then, according to Law Commission, even Supreme Court, according to Law Commission, tribunal should be established to decide ADL issues. Separate tribunal. According to Law Commission, a separate tribunal to decide ADL disqualifications. Separate tribunal to decide ADL disqualification. Fine. Then, Dinesh Goswami Committee. ADL should only apply in Dinesh Goswami Committee. ADL should only apply in which one? Constitution amendment bills, no confidence motion. ADL should only apply in Constitution amendment bill and which one? NCM, no confidence motion. Then, according to Supreme Court, which is that case, I think Meghachandra Singh. According to Supreme Court's judgment in Meghachandra Singh case, 3 months time limit should be imposed. Meghachandra Singh case, 3 months time limit should be imposed. Three months time limit should be imposed. Then look at again Law Commission. Law Commission, just copy this. According to Law Commission, provision related to mergers should be deleted. The split anyhow they have deleted. That would have been an old report. According to Law Commission, merger provision should be deleted. Means because you will get an exemption in case of merger, delete that. Like the Shiv Sena issue, you need to avoid is a point. Merger provisions should be deleted. 2. Pre-poll coalitions should be treated as single party. Pre-poll coalition, because obviously now what will happen? You go together for the election. After election, you decide you can join anyone. That one should not be allowed. Pre-poll coalitions should be treated as a single party. So if you come out of that coalition, ADL. Yeah, another actually criticism you should have written. Under criticism, you can write another point. ADL has strengthened the office of whip, which is a non-constitutional, non-statutory body. ADL has empowered, strengthened whip. ADL has strengthened whip, which is extra-constitutional, extra-statutory body. Because it's nowhere mentioned, it's a convention. ADL has strengthened the whip, which is extra-constitutional, extra-statutory office. Right? Because now, according to Law Commission, whips should be applied only when the government is in danger. Means what? No confidence issues. Law Commission, whip should be applied only in case of NCM. Whip should be applied only in case of NCM. Okay, so that is broadly in and around. If you want broader conclusion also you can write. ADL had a noble intention. ADL had a noble intention to clean up Indian public life. ADL had a noble intention to clean up Indian public life. Noble intention to cleanse Indian public life. However, in practice, it has not fulfilled its intended goal. However, in practice, it has not fulfilled its intended goal. In practice, it has not fulfilled its intended goal. Hence, comprehensive reforms are required. Hence, comprehensive reforms are required to make the act or to make ADL more effective. Comprehensive reforms are required to make it more effective. There's another very famous statement we forgot. Go back to the criticism part where you wrote it has taken away or it has affected the freedom of speech and expression and thereby privileges. There you can write a very famous statement. Soli Sorabji had criticized that. Soli Sorabji, very famous advocate, Supreme Court advocate. Soli Sorabji criticized that remedy should not be worse than the malady. Remedy, solution should not be worse than the problem. Criticize that remedy should not be worse than malady. Means you have come up with a solution which is more worse than the problem, is the criticism. Remedy should not be worse than the malady. Okay? So that is broadly the ADL issue. Remedy should not be worse than malady. Nebam Rabia case is not exactly related to this. That was related to the governor's power. Governor, Article 163, discretionary power. So, Nebam Rabia case, Supreme Court said that. So, governor should not assume that the discretionary power is absolute. You have to use it cautionably, was the Nebam Rabia case. In a way was related to ADL, but actually it was 163 discretionary power. That we will discuss under governor thing. So, that is ADL broadly, which again specifically on ADL they have not asked a question. They have linked it to, I should do that question, they have linked it to ADL. But if in case 15 marker or 10 marker specifically on ADL they ask, I think this is more than enough, so many examples, so many committee recommendations, right from provisions, everything is written at one place. Now the broader issue is, you can put it as what? Parliamentary reforms, which will include your parliamentary effectiveness, ineffectiveness, solution, everything. Parliamentary reforms. What is the need for parliamentary reforms? Which is broader question about what? Parliamentary ineffectiveness, or hashtag you, slash you put it as what? Ineffectiveness. Why do you think it is ineffective? What are the reasons? And then what is the solution? Parliamentary reforms. That is need for parliamentary reforms, or you can say parliamentary ineffectiveness. Parliamentary ineffectiveness, right? So this is what, this is like a broader question which will come up. Everything under this, you can write ADL, you can write committees related issue, you can write speaker related issue, you can write Rajya Sabha related issue, money bill related issue. Each and everything will come under this. This is a very, very broad question of parliamentary reforms. That specifically parliamentary reform question they have still not touched. They have only touched about what? Decline in the role of parliamentarians, or decline in the role of parliament. This is overall parliamentary reforms as a more broader question. Understood? Now first under that, obviously, then what? Reasons or causes for parliamentary ineffectiveness. Because without telling parliamentary ineffectiveness, how do you tell parliamentary reforms are required? Causes for ineffectiveness of parliament. Causes for the ineffectiveness of parliament. Right? So you keep telling what all are there? Causes for ineffectiveness of parliament. First is criminalization of politics. Criminalization of politics. Old fact, you have to bring the new fact now. Criminalization of politics. According to ADR, 46% of MPs in 18th Lok Sabha has criminal charges against them. So for 17th Lok Sabha was 43, 16th 36, 15th 32, now it is 46. 46% of Lok Sabha MP, 18th Lok Sabha MPs have criminal charges against them. 46% of the 18th Lok Sabha MPs have criminal cases, charges against them. Obviously, first major loophole. Then 2, inadequate representation of women. Inadequate representation of women. Obviously, you know, according to ADR, how much? 13%. This is 18th Lok Sabha. 17th was 14%. This is now 13.5. According to ADR, 13% of 18th Lok Sabha MPs are women. 1-3. Inadequate representation of women. Only 13% of the 18th Lok Sabha MPs are women. Fine, that is 2. 3. Ineffectiveness of the parliamentary, that itself is a separate question we have already done. Ineffectiveness of parliamentary committees. Ineffectiveness of parliamentary committees. 4. Politicization of the office of speaker. You can say one of the reason is ADL. Politicization of office of speaker, especially because of ADL. Politicization of the office of speaker, especially because of ADL. Then increase in parliamentary disruptions. Increase in parliamentary disruption. Increase in parliamentary disruption because of lack of coordination, cooperation between ruling party and opposition. Increase in parliamentary disruption because of lack of cooperation between ruling party and the opposition. Ruling party and the opposition. Then ineffectiveness of Rajya Sabha. That itself is separate question we have separately discussed. Ineffectiveness of Rajya Sabha because of bypassing in money bills. That is one of the reasons. There are so many other, we have mentioned it. Because of being bypassed in the money bills. Then increase in ordinances and guillotine closure, increase in ordinances and guillotine closure, thereby bypassing parliamentary scrutiny, bypassing the parliamentary scrutiny. Fine, that's another one. Next one, lack of effective opposition. Lack of effective opposition. If you can also write LOP, leader of opposition position vacant for a long time. Of course, now you will have it for the 17th Lok Sabha. LOP position vacant in the entire 17th Lok Sabha, you can say. LOP position vacant in entire 17th Lok Sabha. Then MPs do not have the expertise to discuss technical issues. MPs do not have expertise to discuss technical issues. Do not have the expertise to discuss technical issues. Right? Okay, I think broadly at least 10 we have written. Okay, so any other things we can effectiveness, Rajya Sabha, women's reserve, okay, fine. Okay, if you want another one, misuse of the powers of presiding officer. Misuse of the powers of presiding officer, like misuse of the powers of presiding officer. Example, suspension of how many? More than 100 MPs last week. I think 100, more than 100, right? Example, suspension of more than 100 MPs. Suspension of more than 100 MPs. Okay, so those are all various factors which has led to overall decline in the parliamentary effectiveness. Then solutions. Obviously, for more or less everything you need solutions. Solution. Right. What is the first loophole that you have mentioned? Criminal. Okay, for that you write the solution. Comprehensive electoral reforms to address COP, criminalization of politics. Comprehensive electoral reforms to address criminalization of politics. So that itself is a broader topic. You need political reform, judicial reform, police reform, all those things to address the criminalization of politics. 2. Women, you have a solution. Implement 106th Amendment 2023. Women's representation. Implement 106th Amendment 2023 to increase women's representation. Fine. Then which one you have mentioned? For every problem. Committee, okay, I think for that again you imagine how many suggestions you have mentioned. ADL, if you want the ADL, you can. ADL also you have mentioned in detail now. Some other better solutions I will tell, write that. I will write that as followed in UK. Opposition should determine. As followed in UK, opposition should determine business of the House. As followed in UK, opposition should determine the business of the House. Opposition should determine the business of the House for you can say 20 to 30% of the days. Opposition should determine the business of the House for 20 to 30%. You can say almost around 1/3 for 1/3 of the days. Means if Parliament functions for 100 days, 33 days they should decide what will be discussed and all those things for 20 to 30% or 25% of the days. That is UK model. Office of, if you want broadly, another UK model is what? Follow UK's once a speaker, always a speaker to neutralize, to increase neutrality and objectivity of the speaker. That anyhow it's a separate topic we have mentioned. Follow UK's once a speaker, always a speaker model to make the office more neutral, objective. Once a speaker, always a speaker model to make the office more neutral and objective. More neutral and objective. Fine, that's another one. Then this will have for, I mean, because committees again, we again and again have mentioned. I'll tell you overall how to. You can use this legislative impact assessment. Legislative impact assessment means what is the impact, overall legislative impact assessment and pre-legislative consultation. And pre-legislative consultation means before you pass the bill, scrutiny should happen, and pre-legislative consultation to improve effectiveness of the bills, laws. To improve effectiveness of the laws. To improve effectiveness of the laws. And then codification of the privileges. Codification of privileges to reduce its arbitrariness. That itself is a separate topic, we will write that. Codification of privileges to reduce its arbitrariness, means misuse. Parliamentary Committee reforms, review of ADL, I have already told. Actually you can write this. UK's shadow cabinet, remember basics. UK's shadow cabinet can be followed. UK's shadow cabinet can be followed. Right, then committee ADL I will not tell because that's all separately we have mentioned. Women's reservation we have mentioned, okay, simultaneous elections. This you can say. Ramanujan committee. Ramanujan committee should be implemented to remove archaic laws, means old laws all remove. Ramanujan committee recommendation to remove archaic, means obsolete, outdated laws. Okay, so that is broadly the parliamentary reforms issue, which in addition what all you can write? Committees you write, ADL you write, Rajya Sabha you write, which all separately also we have mentioned it. Fine. If you want broader conclusion, write about Parliament. Parliament is famously described as the temple of democracy. Famously described as the temple of democracy. Temple of democracy. What it does, it represents the diversity of the nation. Means you have members from across the country and all social groups. It represents the diversity of the nation. It represents the diversity of the nation. Its ineffectiveness will hurt. Its ineffectiveness will hurt India's progress in 21st century. Its ineffectiveness will hurt India's progress in 21st century. Obviously, hence we need comprehensive parliamentary reforms. Hence we need comprehensive parliamentary reforms. Hence we need comprehensive parliamentary reforms to enable it to realize people's aspirations. We need comprehensive parliamentary reforms to enable it to realize people's aspirations. Enable it to realize people's aspirations. So because in the beginning, I mean, when you start, if you might have observed that in polity kind of questions, all those things, writing conclusion actually is a challenging aspect. You can't sum up so easily. So that's why time and again continuously when you write, I think by now you might have understood the trick, how to sum up, how to be positive. Don't bring, as I told, any negative points there. Don't bring any new points there. Just sum up, and wherever possible be optimistic, link it to the future angle. That's why we kept on saying 21st century, so and so, all those things. Or constitution, remember, have you seen yesterday when you wrote so many times what we wrote? Constitution makers, vision of constitution, all those things. That's how you have to bring the, and wherever possible, what you have to do in conclusion, bring back the keywords of the question. That's a huge trick that you have to play. So evaluator should continuously feel that you are writing to the demand. Okay, so that is another one. Then you still have which one? Codification of privileges issue you have. Then I think another issue I left out too. Women's reservation bill. Okay, we'll finish off women's reservation bill, major points. I think positives, the limitation, I think you know most of it, but at least for the heading 106th Amendment 2023. You know most of the provisions, I don't have to tell, because even for prelims you would have studied all these things. 106th Amendment 2023. First tell the major provisions. 330A, 1/3 reservation for women in Lok Sabha. 330 capital A, 1/3 reservation for women in Lok Sabha. Same, next article is what? 32A. 330A, 1/3 reservation in Lok Sabha. 332A, Assembly. In other words, no reservation in Rajya Sabha and Council again. 332A, 1/3 reservation in Assembly. 1/3 reservation in Assembly. Then 239AA, clause 2, subclause B. 239 capital AA, Delhi. 239AA, clause 2, subclause B. Clause 2, subclause B. What is the same? 1/3 reservation in Delhi Assembly. 1/3 reservation in Delhi Assembly. Then again what they are telling, within SC/ST seats, 1/3 reserved for SC/ST women. Within SC/ST seats, 1/3 reserved for SC/ST women. SC/ST reserved seats, 1/3 for SC/ST women. 1/3 seats SC/ST women. Then reservation only for 15 years. That's what is, I think prelims also you had the statement. Reservations only for 15 years, 1/5, further decision Parliament. And if you have seen Indian history, once you can only give it once. So once it comes, assume it is permanent. Reservation only for 15 years, further decision by Parliament. Further decision by Parliament. Then when will this come into force? Implementation only after delimitation based on census. Implementation only after or only based on whatever. Implementation only after the delimitation based on the census report. Based on the delimitation census report. Then most of it you will be knowing, but still privileges will come to it. Clauses, everything is done. So that is whatever you wrote now, delimitation, that is 334A. I forgot the article. Whatever you wrote, delimitation, this, that, everything, that is 334A. So 330A, 32A, 34A, and 239AA. Fine, and this provision is also there. Rotation of seats after or based on delimitations. That is also 334. Rotation of seats means which seat will be reserved for women. So they may keep rotating. That is same common for SC/ST seats also, but that all delimitation reports will decide. Rotation of the reserved seats based on delimitation. Based on delimitation. Fine. Then obviously significance. Why is the bill important? Whatever issues you can say. Significance of the bill. Obviously, first I have already told you just now, which is what? Only 13% of 18th Lok Sabha MPs are women. Only, this is new fact, 18th Lok Sabha fact. ADR. Whenever you write representation, all those things, just put ADR. Remember, that's another trick that you can use in mains. We can call it as half facts. Half facts means what? Most of the times what will happen, you may know the fact. You may not know who has told it. Which source? You cannot say so just the fact. You have to tell whom. Then logical point, what you have to do? So you have to understand which subject, which questions are you writing. Let's say you are talking about parliament representation. You know the fact, you don't know who. Just write ADR. Sir, but I don't know if ADR told or not. It is valid, you get ADR. Now that is a fact, because let them Google search also, ADR would have told it. Same way, yes. Let's say for example, you are rating some so and so people have been uplifted out of poverty, all those things. You know how many, but you don't know who has told it. Just write UN or UNDP. 100% it is valid, because UN will say that report. In same way, let's say for example, you are talking about developing countries, so and so help is needed. Just write World Bank. It is valid 100%. Let's say you are talking about this financial discipline, fiscal discipline, that banks should do so and so, freebies issue. Just write IMF. It is 100% valid. That's it. That is how the half facts will work. Sometimes Niti Aayog. Just write anything related to cooperative federalism, this, that. Remember rankings, all those. Just write it is according to Niti Aayog. It is highly important to promote corporate. Just write Niti Aayog. It is valid. Fine. So like that, this is half facts which you can use, because most of the times what you can do, you may not remember all the facts. Again, gender gap related, look at it, gender gap, all those things, gender, you may not remember what, just write World Economic Forum, it is valid. So this is again a main trick, because as I told, practically in real time, how many facts can you recall? You can't recall so easily. So even sometimes what you may know, okay, I don't even know the fact, but you are writing in and around women's, just write according to World Economic Forum, so India should bring so and so, it is valid. So that all you have to use, because substantiation is very important. So, and you have to substantiate using these international organizations, Niti Aayog, World Bank, that is how validation, right? Law Commission, so many reforms of Law Commission, remember? Sir, I don't know if this, I know the ADL reform, but I don't know if Law Commission told or not. You just write Law Commission, they would have told it. Same way, electoral reform, just write Election Commission, they would have told it. So that's a half fact which you have to use very smartly. Got an idea, right? Yeah, because write the trick somewhere in March, because that all you have to use it. You may forget that, that's why I'm telling it. Note it down somewhere in the margin, like that's you can call it, I mean I'm calling it as half facts, you can call it as any which way. You understood how you have to manage, right? So World Bank means development related, IMF means financial stability or financial health related, which one? Gender, World Economic Forum, gender related, Niti Aayog, federalism related, Law Commission, legal reforms, ADR, representations. Understood? ADR for statistics, parliament related statistics, Law Commission, legal reforms, election, ECI, electoral reforms. Then which one? World Bank, development related, UN, poverty related, Niti Aayog, federalism related, World Economic Forum, gender related. You know or you don't know, just write that. Fine, this is another trick that you have to very smartly you have to use it. Then another way of using fact is what? Same fact what you have to use even in society. Let's say for example, simple example as I keep telling this, let's say female labor force participation in India is around so and so. Let's say normally they tell 27%, Niti Aayog, World Bank. Same fact, use it in GS1 society, GS2 either here or let's say social justice, GS3 economy, GS4 women equality. Same fact only, you have to use it everywhere. Because as I always keep telling, you have to understand that you also as a human have limitation. How many facts will you remember? How many recommendation will you remember? Is it possible? You practically think and imagine. You can't remember n number of facts, right? Maximum 70, 80, 100 facts. Maximum Punchi Commission 510, Sarkaria 510. You have to have limitations because you have to understand that in real time you cannot recall everything. Two, even if you recall, you don't have the scope to write all the recommendations. So use it smartly then and there. Clear? Okay, fine. Then equal, that is first to me. Second, same, you can copy that. According to same World Economic Forum, global gender gap, they have told 2022, 2023 also will be more or less the same. India ranks very low. If you don't remember the fact, what you write? India ranks very low in political empowerment. According to World Economic Forum's global gender gap report, India ranks very low in political empowerment because it's not so easy to remember 48. How will you remember? So write very low in political empowerment. Fine, then women representation will lead to what? Will lead to women and child specific policies and programs. Women representation leads to women and children specific policies and programs. Then same, it addresses, or women's representation addresses increase in crimes against women, low female participation. Increased women representation will address increase in crime rates against women, increase in the crimes against women, skewed sex ratio, low female labor force participation, skewed sex ratio, low female labor force participation. Labor force participation. Then UNCEDAW, elimination of all forms of discrimination against women. UNCEDAW expects women discrimination to be abolished in political and public life. UNCEDAW expects elimination of discrimination against women in political and public life. Then women's reservation in panchayats, local bodies. Women's reservation in panchayats has shown that women's reservation in local bodies or panchayats has shown that women sarpanchas complete the projects. Women reservation in panchayats has shown that women sarpanchas complete the projects better than men. Women sarpanchas complete the projects better than men. Okay, so that is broadly the points. You can still have so many. Then what are the challenges then? Issues with respect to the bill or overall women's reservation? Issues. Fine. Obviously, first issue is what? The implementation of the act is not clear. Means when will you implement? We still don't know. Implementation of the act, time frame. Implementation of the act is still not clear. It is still not clear. Then the phenomena of Pati Panchayats. The phenomena of Pati Panchayats may replicate in Lok Sabha and Assembly. Because obviously we know the same seats, so they'll give it up for their wives or sisters or all those things. The phenomena of Pati Panchayats may be replicated in Lok Sabha and Assembly. 3. reservation for OBC women is not addressed. Reservation for OBC women is not addressed. Then it may create a stereotype. It may create a stereotype that women are not competent to elect on merit. Means it may create that image. It may create a stereotype that women are not competent to be elected on merit. May not be competent to elect on merit. Fine, that's another loophole. Fine, okay. So then capacity building of women MPs is a challenge. Capacity building of women MPs is a challenge. Fine. So then what is the way forward then? Way forward. First is what? In addition to reservation in legislature, reservation within political parties is required. So if a party is contesting 100 seats, they should give 1/3 seats for women. In addition to reservation in legislature, reservation within the political parties is required. Reservation within political parties is required. Within political parties is required. 1, 2. Capacity building of women MPs like Rajiv Gandhi. Capacity building of women MPs like Rajiv Gandhi Mahila Sashakti-karan Abhiyan. So that is for Panchayat MP members. Same point here. Like Rajiv Gandhi Mahila Sashakti-karan Abhiyan. Mahila Sashakti-karan Abhiyan. Then what do you have to tell? Criminalization of politics. Criminalization of politics. Influence of money and muscle power in election. Criminalization of politics. Influence of money and muscle power in election. Influence of money and muscle power in election should be reduced. Should be reduced to create favorable atmosphere for women. Influence of money and muscle power in election should be reduced to create favorable atmosphere for women. Right? Okay. So some other points that will always be there. That's about women reservations. And the only major issue which is pending is what? Codification of parliamentary privileges. Because of again the PV Narasimha Rao case being reversed, it's a major issue that will continue tomorrow, and then we'll continue with legislature is done mostly. Election we have to do. Our election we have to finish. Then we'll come back with your judiciary, executive, all those things. Okay, fine.